This video is kind of meant for one person, but I figured if I'm recording a video for that person, I should probably just record the video and have out on the channel anyways. So this is how to remove the shutter speed dial and the ASA dial on either the Spotmatic or the K1000, because they're essentially, it's the same design because they're both Pentax cameras, and as you can see, these are virtually identical. There is a different one though, SP500, like this, although I did take this off and I put it on a K1000 because I was bored. But as you can see, it only goes up to 500 because that was the fastest speed that the SP500 shot at, hence SP500, which goes into why the K1000 is called the K1000, because it can shoot at a shutter speed of 1000, and it's a K-mount lens as opposed to the M42 mount that the Spotmatics are. But that doesn't matter because you did not click on this video for random bits of information that you could get off Google. You came here to learn how to take this shutter speed dial off. So let's get into that. For starters, I like to use tweezers when I do this. These tweezers work okay, but I honestly prefer something like this. It gives you a little bit more torque. Also, I have these these are called like rosary pliers, and typically I like to sharpen these down a little bit with like a Dremel, get into a finer point, and then I find that those are also very useful, but you're looking for something that has a decent amount of torque. If it's something like this, like these aren't as difficult as, say, I don't know, a Nikon's, because the Nikon has a similar setup to this, but the screw in the middle here is a lot longer. Maybe one of these days I will demonstrate that, but first what I like to do is just set it to something that I know it's going to be at. So I always go with 1000 for the shutter speed and 1600 for the ASA. I don't think that's textbook, because I think it's supposed to be bulb and something else. I could be wrong about that, but point being, so I just like to, personally, I set it to something like that. Take my tweezers, stick it in the two holes, and you want to make sure that you're applying enough pressure so it doesn't jump. But I use those to kind of loosen it up, and then it should come out relatively easily. It's just this middle screw. So this is the screw. It's really short, as you can see, and if you can also see, the tweezers that I'm using kind of go through, so that's why you kind of don't want to dig into it too much, otherwise it'll be basically impossible to unscrew it because you're like digging into it. All of this, you have two dials, and they sit one on top of another like that, and underneath that is a spring. So that spring will cause it to jump out, so just be careful of that when you're unscrewing, because the first time I did this, nobody told me that. They conveniently forgot to, and I had the whole thing jack in the box at me, and that was pretty terrifying. So just be wary, and then if you're looking down at it here, you can see that there's a little knob-like thing, you know, that little bit that points up, and that's basically where you're going to put that. So just, you know, do whatever you need to do if you're taking the top off, yada yada, but we'll just put it back together. So I sit that outer casing back on top of the knob, it sits flush, and I put the spring back in, and then this is when it's important to remember what you had the settings at, because you're going to put the you're going to have your shutter speed selector, and then you're going to put your dial right there like so, And then there's another little deal there, and that's just gonna sit right in there. So that'll sit back like that. And then putting that back on. And again, you kind of want to be delicate when you're doing this, because you don't want to scratch it too much, because it will show. And this is just a normal righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Make sure that it has the full range of travel through all the ASAs. Make sure that it's firing at all the different speeds. And yeah, that's basically it. That is how you remove the shutter speed selector on either a Spotmatic, K1000, any sort of thing like that. But really quick, easy to do. You just want to make sure that you put it back together all nice and tight. The ring, or the springs on the older ones especially, they do typically have signs of rust on them, and underneath here as well. Sometimes there's a lot of buildup, which could cause it to be stuck. So I typically use something like lighter fluid, cleaning alcohol. I use this 99% isopropyl alcohol, and that seems to do a really good job. That and like a Q-tip, and really get in there. Vinegar diluted with water tends to work as well, just to kind of clean off any of that gunk. And then also the important thing is when you put it all in, make sure that it's sitting flush like that. If it's sticking up on one side, take it apart, because you didn't get the little notch thing all set back in properly. But yep, that's basically it. I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next one.